All right, Matt DeBerry's got a question for everyone watching, and particularly for the result on Saturday night.
If the Dogs beat Texas, are they 100% in the college football playoff, Ryan? Or does the Texas, okay, you got the thumbs up.
We're
Oh,
on thumbs up.
they win, they're
They're
in.
they're in if they win this thing, right? Because we're assuming that they're going to take care of Charlotte the following week on Senior Day. I think they're in when you look at this, they'll have one of the most significant wins in the country with the win over Ole Miss. They will have one of the better strength of records, even so. Like we're assuming, let's just assume that they lose to Georgia Tech, right? For the purpose of that argument, I think 10-2 Georgia with the schedule it has gets in. We're going to see a 10-2 Notre Dame get in without that schedule. You see where they have Texas ranked with Texas. I studied Texas a lot yesterday. It's hard to get a read on who the Longhorns are, but they have one really good win where they scored one offensive touchdown against Oklahoma. The rest of them, they had to gut those games out or they lost. So I don't see a world where Georgia, they might not have a home playoff game. I think it's certainly a possibility. They're ranked in that 9 to 12. They're seated in that 9 to 12 range, but 10-2 gets Georgia in.
Yeah, I hesitate to be definitive, but it sure is hard to figure out how they wouldn't be in the playoff. I mean, I think there's some strange voodoo with the automatic bid situation that I'm not certain I totally understand as it relates to the ACC. But we know there will be 4 automatic bids, and we know Notre Dame's hanging around. So that's 5 teams alone.
I thought they're 5 auto bids.
All
The
right,
one group
so
of
I'm
five
going to
and the
pause
group
the
of five.
video and look something up real quick because I'm not sure the rule because the rules have changed. Hold on for a second. All right, so let me be clear. Let me be more clear. Ryan is correct as it relates to this. So it is possible the ACC champion could get left out, particularly if it's 9-4 Duke. So in that scenario, Ryan, it would be the ACC, excuse me, the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, the American, and or whoever, or perhaps James Madison would fill in if Duke or someone even worse were to win the ACC championship. So the ACC could be left out, but the math doesn't change. So your 5 champions go. That leaves 7 spots from that stage forward, okay, y'all? And then you've got, so 7. I'm going to leave my hands up like this. So you still have an SEC runner-up, a Big Ten runner-up, all right? Then you have Oregon, who I'm just not going to get rid of yet. Let's say it's Oregon or USC. I don't see how Georgia doesn't get in at this stage because, like, Ole Miss will get in, but Georgia's got a loss against Ole Miss. Georgia's got a win against Ole Miss. The question, I think, becomes, Ryan, do they host?
I I
I
mean,
don't
it just
know
kind of
at that
depends.
stage.
Yeah, because there are things that need to be played out. I think if you want to kind of put it in a simple way, with the way that this bracket's laying out, Georgia's got to be ranked in the top 10 to get in. Because if
Correct.
they're ranked 11 or 12, there's a real possibility that the ACC or the American or Conference USA or whoever shoves them out by getting
Right.
that auto bid and being the 11 and 12. So you got to be top 10. I think that's not something that Kirby and them are looking at, but that's kind of your mental cutoff as a fan or a viewer of what do you need to be to get into this thing right now with the way that the ACC is playing out. I don't know if they'd have Georgia over Notre Dame if Georgia lost to Texas or to
Well, at that,
excuse
I
me
think let's have
to
that
Georgia
discussion
Tech.
real quick, Matt, because if you talk about sometimes this depends on who Georgia loses to. Is it Texas or is it Tech? But what is Notre Dame's big win at this stage? It seems to me like Notre Dame's big win is a loss to Texas A&M at home.
It's
That's probably
USC, I guess.
that's a little harsh. I think it's SC, yes. But other than that, like they're playing Pitt and then Syracuse and Stanford to close this season out. They lost to Miami. They lost to Texas A&M
And they've beaten every team by double digits since
since.
then.
That is
And
correct.
you can make the case. The officials had that game in their hand, the A&M Notre Dame game. I mean, that came down to the wire. If one call goes the other way, especially at the end on that game-winning touchdown, Notre Dame probably has a really good chance of winning that
But
game.
they didn't miss that call.
The hold or
Okay, now I'm not talking about that.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Either way, that was a tight game, and we're talking about Texas A&M maybe being the best team in the country, and that game was in the balance there at the very end. I guess my question was to y'all, getting kind of back on track a little bit. If Georgia loses to Texas and beats Tech, are they still in a very favorable position? I think so, but I think there's a lot of football still to be played to answer that question.
Well,
Yeah,
in that scenario, Ryan, I mean, Texas can still go to lose in A&M. I mean, a loss to a 9-3 Texas is not the greatest look on earth.
no, and I'm looking at it. Now I have the rankings in front of me. I think it does get muddier if Georgia loses this weekend or loses to which one? What did you just propose, Matt?
Just what happens if Georgia loses to Texas, but then has a really solid win over Georgia Tech?
Well, I think that if in terms of numbers, wouldn't you would rather lose to Texas
Yeah.
because they view Texas higher than Georgia Tech,
Someone has to.
even though it's a home game. But I do think that that 10-2 mark, if you just look at it, and they're trying to be more resume based this time, right? They're trying to be better. I just don't see a world where they put some of these teams ahead
Correct.
of Georgia. They're going to be
Correct.
in that 8, 9, 10 range, even with two losses, because once you get to that point, they're not going to rank Oklahoma over Georgia unless Oklahoma beats Alabama. Then it gets a little
But
muddier.
then
I
Alabama
don't see them
drops.
ranking BYU over them. I don't see them ranking Utah over them. I think Georgia would be ahead of Notre Dame,
Yeah.
They just
because
need
its
one
losses
win.
were just better.
It
Yeah,
seems to me they need one win. I think it's likely they will
Yeah.
get two wins, frankly.
yeah.
But well, three are at the end. But I think, this time last year we were having all of these discussions, and then the world broke when I went to New York and watched when I went to New York and Oklahoma just thumped Alabama. I don't think it's out of the question that Alabama loses this weekend. That could make things pretty strange. But I think what Ryan's touching on is kind of the right point. If Texas were to beat Georgia, Texas would go in front of Georgia, but that would still leave Texas at 10. It's Georgia in the top 10. Um, the scenario that would be a little bit jumpy is Alabama and Georgia both lose, and then the loser of Alabama Georgia, which was Georgia, would be at the 11. So that's a scenario where you could get a little bit on the jumpy side. But I think the point I think for me is that like 10-2 Vanderbilt, are you putting them over Georgia? 10-2 Utah, are you putting them over Georgia? 11-1 BYU that got beat pretty bad by Texas Tech. Are you putting them over Miami, Georgia Tech, which would have had in this scenario that we're talking about a loss? SC, Michigan, everybody at this stage has 2 or 3 losses below them. I just don't. I don't know. My suspicion is one win gets you not just in the playoff, but probably hosts. Is my guess. I don't think it's at all out of the question that Georgia goes and plays for the SEC championship. Let me just talk real quick about our friends at Sales Hatch. They're doing all the hard work for you. You own your business. You're running your business. You are in your business. You're working on your business. Let Sales Hatch get everything else done for you that you need to get done in terms of reaching out to people, touching new leads, all of these things that you've got to have. Sales Hatch can get that done for you. You see it on the screen, the QR code. We're coming back to Matt DeBerry now. Matt, what is your likelihood that, I think if you're Georgia and you become the 5 seed, there's a couple of things. So if Georgia went, as expected, wins these next 3 games, they would be the 5. They would host, probably North Texas or South Florida or James Madison or maybe Miami or Georgia Tech. I don't know who it would be. But you'd be playing a Saturday afternoon or night game.
And then the 4 seed. Is that correct?
Then you'd play the 4, which will almost certainly not be Alabama because it will be either that, the committee, I think, would make decisions at that stage as far as do we really want to do all these things. So every lineup from recently has been the 5 and the 4 are Alabama and Georgia. That's going to jumble up in the near future here. I was surprised. Y'all can both take a shot at this. I was slightly surprised that A&M was not in front of Indiana. I mean, if we're winning by toenails, I think no hate. I think Indiana is good. I think Texas A&M is good, but I get
Shows
hating
the
on A&M, but come
inconsistency in
on
their
now.
process.
But I also think it's almost like an NFL official where like we kept Indiana in front of them last week. If we change it, then it looks like we didn't get it right last week. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I
but the
feel like
results don't the
those
results
people
have to
That's,
have
matter?
egos.
I think you're right, Matt, and that's one of the dumbest things ever.
But
Like it's a fluid situation.
Correct.
these are
Who cares
power
what you thought the week before?
these are powerful people. They all have egos, and I don't think they want to switch it up too much. I think they're all in the room
Well,
together.
they
They
switched up
know
Ole Miss. They switched up Ole Miss from Texas
Yeah.
not
Tech.
too much. You have to a little bit.
You do?
They've got a thing.
I
They've
think
got
in
a
their
thing for the
mind,
Big Ten.
They
they
do
don't
have a thing
want
for
to
the Big
switch it
Ten.
up too much unless they have to. But
Uh,
I don't know what the committee's thinking a lot of the times. I think the last couple weeks they've got it right for the most part, but
Yeah.
they're going to have to make some really tough decisions at some point, probably after this weekend's games.
Yeah, there are a couple of muddy scenarios that we haven't really discussed too that would make it complicated for Georgia if Georgia loses to Texas or Tech. One would be Alabama getting another loss, kind of combined with Michigan beating Ohio State.
Right.
And I don't know if it'd be Michigan or USC that goes to the Big Ten in that case. I'd have to look at it. But then we're talking about another Big Ten team possibly getting in
Right.
if Indiana were to lose that. Chaos is still completely possible here. So I think, like to the original point, for Georgia's case, you just got to win this game this weekend, and the stress of having a spot in this thing is gone.
So I just do want to let I think we do need to make the playoff better. I don't think that we need automatic bids. I think that it's not the same. The Big Ten's not the same as the SEC, and the ACC sure as hell isn't. So we do need to have some parameters on this thing. This is not about getting the best 12 teams. This is about getting 5 deserving teams and 7 of the and then the best, in theory, best 7 other teams. Ole Miss, they're done. Like they got the Gators, which I cannot imagine them losing to. And then
I did it last year.
well, but
This
that Florida team had fight. They had already beaten LSU the week before, or whatever it was. This Florida team's done. Dude, they got beat by Kentucky bad. That was the worst. That was the most
ugly.
decisive Kentucky win in SEC play. That was not against Vanderbilt, I think, this century. So, and then and I was surprised the way Kentucky got their ass beat by Louisville last night. But I do think Louisville's good in basketball. I will say this, side note, Georgia Tech sucks at basketball. They're complete trash. The Gators got a little work to do too. But, man, Georgia Tech is bad. I'm going to be at that game Friday night. I do not think it's out of the question that Georgia beats Tech by 15 to 20 points, which in basketball is a lot of points.
Oh, I thought you were going to say more than that.
No,
Third best team in the state.
What, Matt?
He's
Tech's
talking
third
about
best basketball team in the state.
Georgia?
Georgia Tech is the third best. That's on. There's
Behind Georgia State. I mean, maybe not. I mean,
He's,
who is he?
he's talking about Kennesaw, man.
Oh, Augusta.
Kennesaw. Who?
He was going to mention Augusta. Gotcha. Well, I think Mercer and them got a little bit of ways to go. But no, Georgia Tech's bad right now. I mean, I've watched them play 3 games. It's rough out there. But anyway, yeah, dude, if you go through, I would say this. If I'm Scott and Mindy at Red Zone, I'm like, hey, okay, we kind of really want a road. We want a home game here. We want a home game. We want to get another, 90,000 people in Athens just before Christmas, get to showcase the store. The
That
winner
would be huge for the town.
It'd be huge for Athens. But the town itself, if Georgia beats Texas, I'm not sure. There are scenarios, but we're started like leaping through a bunch of hurdles to get to them. I'm not sure that we see that happen. And we're running late on time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.